At the ISS we have a very diverse student body. We have students from different countries, from different continents, different disciplinary backgrounds. So today itself we have an annual teaching day. We organize that annually for academic staff members and other people who are interested and involved in our teaching program. And we discuss how we can innovate our teaching, how we can assess students better on what they learn, how we can make better use of the diversity in the classroom. In this video you will see some of that diversity. We experiment with different ways of teaching, with different ways of assessing students, with different ways of involving students, of making them learn what they want to learn here.
Hi, I'm the course leader of the general course, together with my colleague Rosalba Ikaza. And the general course is basically all students of the Institute take the general course. It's also a very popular course. Students generally at the end of the degree always tell us how much they keep learning from the course, even at the end of their degree or even once they've left ISS and are back at work and they think back at the course and remember it. So we're quite proud of our course. The course is run every week. There's one lecture, which is, we try to be interactive, but we're obviously covering a lot of material. And so we also have one workshop every week in which students group together in groups of 12 or 13 and they discuss the readings and the ideas of the lecture and they debate and interact among themselves. They're student-led, although they're facilitated by a PhD student. And it's to basically enhance the learning of that's started from the lecture, in essence. And yes, so if you come here, you'll be able to enjoy this experience.
So I think this process is very helpful in our understanding very complicated theories, and I do appreciate this combination of lectures and workshops for the students.
It's so interesting to see how the person that leads the workshop makes you engage into the topic. We all have very different ways of doing it, and that's really interesting. And it's also very interesting because we are 12 people from 12 different countries, so we all bring our different experiences, and we come from different fields as well. So that really makes it very rich.
I enjoy the ISS workshops because they're a fun and interactive way of learning the material. The beautiful thing about the workshop is that it's participatory. It brings about new techniques and new tools to analyze and further and deepen your understanding about its material. The best thing, however, is that if you do not understand the reading or if you don't understand the lecture, it's a great way to catch up.
So the game is actually a voting game. It uses a website called Pinion, so it's about taking people's opinion. And the goal of the game is to stimulate class discussions. So I use the game to ask a couple of questions, and they have to answer on their own mobile device, their mobile phone, their tablet, their laptop connected to the Wi-Fi system. They see a couple of questions, they answer the questions quickly, just on the basis of intuition and knowledge from previous classes. And then I can show through that same website through which I log in which I of course put in the questions before, I can show the results. So there pops up a screen and I can show the results live. So every time a student is voting, that vote is added to the results. And the results are shown very clearly with bar diagrams and with absolute number of voters and percentage of votes for each option. And the advantage of doing this is that you stimulate the class discussion without people having to reveal their own position. Because students, particularly in an introductory economics course, are often a bit insecure about their knowledge about economics. They admit to me often that they never read the financial pages. Some of them are afraid of formulas and calculations. So students in an introductory economics class often do not feel very secure.
So the thing is, in teaching, I try to use some of the things which seem to work, which is stories. Everybody likes stories. So I'll tell you a story about the simulation game. Once upon a time, I went to Australia, and I was at the Department of Politics in Melbourne, and I noticed students having a great time, and I thought, this is not usual. And I asked somebody what was going on, and 150 students were taking part in a simulation game about international politics. And I thought, So I observed, and when I got back to Swansea University, where I used to work, we tried it with Venezuela, and it was great fun. We had about 40-50 students every year, master students, doing different real roles in Venezuela. So when I came to The Hague, to ISS, we did it with Venezuela at first, and then we changed to Rwanda, which I do research on. And I thought that would be a challenge, doing a game about a country that's had genocide, and that's going through lots of post-genocide reconstruction issues. So we chose land issues, gender issues, media issues, and we worked with those. And although Rwanda has indeed had a traumatic history, what we found is that the embassy and Rwandan students have been very keen to come in and help us to both get our facts right. So who is the Minister of Justice? Has it changed in the last 2 weeks? And also to come along, watch the students when they do their final conference, which you'll see scenes of here. For instance, the students present at the end of their simulation after 3 weeks of working online. They present position papers on how problems can be resolved in the future. Problems about land rights, indigenous people, gender issues, issues to do with criminal justice, reconciliation, a whole range depending on which role they play. Some of the roles they play might be like an editor, like this, like editor of a newspaper, or there might be somebody who's, in fact, nobody ever wants to be the head of state, the president himself. It's a very hard role to play. We do have 1 or 2 non-Rwandans, but not that many. It's mostly Rwandan, 90%. And we have a lot of emphasis on gender issues and also issues of justice. So these are the kind of roles that people play. And if they're NGO, I suggest they work for a government. And if their background is in government, I usually suggest they work for an NGO, a non-governmental organization. So, and men play women, women play men. So it's to get out of their comfort zone and to challenge themselves and play the role. And by playing the role, they actually contribute to everybody else's knowledge. And that's how they read. They read from their role. So they read background material that their role would need to know. And that chemistry just comes together. So the story is that you start with a pretty unpromising looking scenario, people playing roles in a post-genocide society, but as they get into their role, the students identify more and more with the character that they're playing. And just by wanting to tell the story of who they are in the simulation, the action comes together. And they learn experientially. So what they sometimes say at the end is, it was a hard process, but I feel I learned things in a way that I won't forget. And that's a bit like a story, isn't it? When you have a story, the reason you tell a story about something is not to go into all the complicated details necessarily, but so that you'll remember. And that's what we hope. I hope that students will remember something they learned about making policies or negotiating change, and how the experiential knowledge as well as the reading they've done in the simulation will kind of give them a different insight into the fact that reality is really difficult. And being a president, for instance, being Paul Kagame, you might think that's very attractive until you try it, in which case you say it's not as easy as you thought.